Okay, excellent. Well, we're going to get started here. It's 7:03, so thank you all for joining session 2 of Adventures into Self-Mastery. It's going to be a fun class tonight. We're going to get into some intuition and some inner voice things, and we're going to really talk about how do we now build off of last week's or 2 weeks ago, we had our first session. How do we build off of that, where we capitalizing on our own uniqueness? Hopefully, many of you have been thinking about your values and tapping into more about who you are, and I'm really doing some work around that, so we can build on top as you become more centered and grounded in yourself. Now we're going to get into a few tools that you can use that I think will help build on top and help you learn to really create and learn how to manifest more into your life and stay grounded within yourself at the same time. So tonight, let's get rolling here. So thank you again. I just want to also reiterate, when we talk about self-mastery, we mentioned this last time, having self-mastery is not about not having challenges. It's not about not having stress or having situations that gives you anxiety or feeling depressed sometimes, or feeling stuck or lost or those kind of things. Because that's a part of who we are. It's part of our life. We're going to experience those things as human beings. It's more about having the self-mastery to learn how to use your own tools within you to navigate these transitions in life, to navigate these moments that come into our life smoothly and more effectively as you go along, because you will continue to attract opportunities to learn and grow, and those things come in the form of challenge sometimes. So if you have the tools to manage these, then you can have the tools to learn the lessons, and I like to call it to capture these nuggets of wisdom from all these experiences of life. A little bit more about me. Again, I've been in this field for about almost 30 years now. Chiropractor, started out in 1993. So I've been teaching and studying and working with clients and patients in the health and wellness field for many years, and really have been learning over those years how to navigate the body's signs and symptoms to help uncover physiological issues that are going on. So for the past 20 plus years, I've been working as a facilitator from Demartini Institute, and I use that in my work when I'm working with clients or if I'm working with patients. We'll use different tools that I've learned over the years, and again, it's been a 53-year study on self-mastery, of how to master my own self. And for you guys, what a great class to start learning how to master your own self, because if you want to become a master at something, you got to put some time and energy on learning about something. That's why last week's class, we really talked a lot about the importance of tapping in to your values and to your drives and your priorities that are just specifically to you, and really get to know you. Self-knowledge is the first step really into self-mastery, because if you want to learn to master something in life, you got to know about it. And so, learn to master yourself, got to know more about who you are, what makes you tick, why you do the things you do, why you choose what you choose, why you've chosen the things in the past, why you chose the present, and what are you going to choose in the future. This is all going to be specifically to you and your values and your drives, and we're going to really get you grounded into that. I didn't have my slides last time, so this time I got a nice slide I want to show you guys. If you have your pen and paper handy, if you didn't get this last time, I want to make sure that the wellness, the rich wellness, the rich model is something that you really get grounded in, because it's going to be something we'll tap back into pretty much every session, all 12 sessions. We're going to go back to this. So again, you make the 3 circles overlapping, and there's 4. So you make 4 areas basically that we're going to really focus on. It's the relationship area, identity area, career area, and the health area. So it looks something like this. So this is the rich model, which is the groundwork for the rich method that I take clients through, I take patients through, and anyone that I work with. We really focus on getting this rich model grounded and specific to you, because everyone is so unique and so different that it's important to have a foundation of how do you look at your life on a whole and all the areas of your life and compartmentalize it so it makes sense. And so this model to me has really helped make more sense about life and how to, put life together. So, and as you can see, all these areas, they overlap on each other. And in the middle, you have the I, which is the identity. Okay. So this is where we're starting. And this is the center point. Because the identity, which is basically who you are as a person, what are your values and jobs? What is your inspired mission? What does it mean for you to be an authentic being? That's at the center of your life. Okay. The relationships, your career, your health. Those are the areas of life that we all have, energy in. In the relationships, we have family, we have our social and friends, we have our significant others, and our career. You got your service that you're here to provide. You've got your mastery of that service, but you also have your value that you get out of providing that service, which is your wealth, that in the forms of wealth that you attract. And then the H, which is a health area, you got the chemical, your physical, and the emotional areas of the health, with the mental, the mind and body health. And so those are the three areas that we focus on. And like we said last time, when you're building your life and you're trying to create your life in these areas, the relationship, career, health, it's wise to get clear about who you are and get that centerpiece as strong as possible. It's the cog of the wheel. Your values, your drives, your mission, that's the cog of your wheel. So you want to get really solid on that piece and then start to build around that. Because as you notice, probably in your own life, you have stress and chaos and confusion, and we can get stuck in each of these areas of our life, in the relationships, in our career, in our health, and our finances. Those are the areas that we get feedback in that tries to help get us back to our centerpiece and get strong within ourselves again. And so as you're looking through your life and you're looking past present and future, and you start to plan what you would love to have in your relationship, career, and health, you want to make sure that it's centered around a really solid identity of knowing who you are first. Many times as I work with clients, they come to me with stress, or they have anxiety, or they've got depression, or maybe they're feeling stuck or lost in one of their areas of life. Okay. And the first thing we want to do is let's get back to the core. Let's get back to that center, and let's get clear about who we are. Let's get clear about our values. Let's get clear about why we're here. And then let's tackle the confusion and the chaos. And then let's tackle the transitions that you might be going through in these areas of life. Because if you look back on your life, you can probably pinpoint significant events in your life that has happened. And it's those significant events that we pull the most wisdom out about who we are and why we're here. So if you haven't done it, take some time this week and just really get more clear about your values and your drive, so you can really have that foundation to build off of. And so today we're going to get into what I like to call how to use these three superpowers to get what you want. Now there's, these three superpowers are just three significant pieces of the puzzle that I've noticed in my life, and what I've seen is when you can really get clear about these superpowers and learn how to use them effectively, then you can navigate these life transitions and challenges more effectively, because you have, again, a grounding point, which is back to yourself again. And it's all about trying to get clear and get clarity about who you are, why are you here, and what do you want for your life. And so we're going to get into showing you these three superpowers and how to actually use them as we move along. So let's get into these. Here we go. We got three superpowers. One, we're going to talk about trusting your intuition. Two, we're going to talk about listening to the inner voice. And three, we're going to talk about focusing your intention to attract what you want. So those are going to be our three areas we're going to cover. Like Gia said, if you have questions, put them in the chat box so we can make sure to cover those at the end as we go along. We can make sure that you, because I might be answering, you have a question, I might actually answer it on the way. But if I don't, then let's make sure to take some time to answer questions so we can all learn from each other. All right, first, trusting your intuition. So first thing is, what is the intuition trying to do? Our intuition is trying to show us both sides of the equation. Our intuition is trying to get us back to present moment. Our intuition is trying to open us up to see the full quantum, the full data of the situation that we're in. As we go through life and we get into situations where we might feel stuck or lost, or we've got to make a decision, or we're in a transition and we don't know where to go, it's wise to learn, it is a learned thing, how to really learn to tap into that intuition, to gather all the data, because that's what your intuition wants to do, is gather all the data so that when it's time to make a choice, you have all the information you need in order to make a choice that actually is congruent and aligned with who you are. And so your intuition is trying to keep you centered and poised about making decisions. Now, the instinct, which sometimes in our life, we might make choices based on an instinct. Now, our instinct is there to show us the instinct. When you're having instinct, you want to run from something because you might be perceiving more negatives than positive, more challenge than support. And so your instinct says, run from something, run away, basically run away from this. This is danger, get out of here. And so the instinct is seeing one side only, which is more negatives than positive. Now, the impulse, which is going to be the opposite, was the impulse tends to see more negatives than positive, more positives than negative, and you want to run toward something. You want to attract it into your life more. You want that in because you perceive as an impulse that it's going to give you more benefits and drawbacks, more positives and negatives, more support than challenge. So impulsively, we want to run toward that, or we may have an infatuation toward that. I'm sure we've all experienced times where we saw something or someone that we thought had more positive negatives, and impulsively want to run toward that. And I'm sure there's been times where instinctually you see that something's more negative than positive, you want to run away from something. And so neither one of these polarities are giving you full data. Again, it's a one-sided equation when you're trying to run your life through instinct and impulse. What I've noticed, I know in my life, and I see clients, that tends to give you a really up and down swings of life. You feel up and then you might feel down, and there's never this nice flow through life. So when you're running your life through impulse and instinct, you're running your life through the emotional state. And so that will tend to give you more challenges as you will run into the other side at some point. So if you're ignoring one side, you always run back into it. And so when you're making choices out of instinct or impulse, you're seeing one side, and sooner or later, you're going to run into the other side, and that will balance the equation. Your intuition is trying to show you both sides from the beginning and get you to stop and gather more data so you can have full information so you can then make a choice. Because when you're tapped into your intuition and you see both sides, now you can make the choice based on all the information. And when you're clear on your values and you're clear on your drives and you're clear on your mission, now when you're tapped into your intuition, you see both sides, you can make a choice that is more aligned with who you are, not out of emotion, but out of a centered space of presence. Impulse and instinct it takes you out of presence because you're only seeing one side. Intuition, when you see both sides, gets you back to present. And so it's from that present moment, it's from that poised state when you're not emotional about making choices that you can make a decision that is more likely aligned with who you are and will get you your values met more readily. Now, because you can't really screw things up, if you make a choice out of impulse or instinct, you're still going to get a result. And you're still going to have an opportunity to learn something, learn a lesson. When you act out of intuition, you're still going to have supports and challenge, positive, negative. So either way you choose, don't think you're not going to run into challenges or polarities. You're just going to have different sets that are going to be coming to you. And if you choose to act impulsively or instinctively, you're going to run into one set of challenge that's going to try to get you back to center. If you choose if you make the choices out of intuition, you're still likely to run into supports and challenges, but those challenges are going to be ones that are on the way towards something toward meeting your highest values, as opposed to needing to attract some outside chaos or confusion to get you back in with impulse and instinct. And so to learn how to just really tap in and become an expert at learning to tap into your own intuition is an amazing superpower as you move forward in life, to be able to navigate times of stress and challenge, and times of, when you have relationship challenges or career or finance challenges or health challenges. When you have this superpower that you've tapped into with your intuition, then you can have more ease at navigating these life challenges, as opposed to up and down. You've got the nice flu. You're riding the wave of life instead of up and down a roller coaster ride. And I'm sure we've all had those times before. So it's learning how to tap into that intuition, become your own expert. And one of the hardest things that I find that I see clients or over the years have is being able to say no when you really mean no, and not say yes to something you don't want to say yes to. I've had this discussion several times this week, actually, with someone is tapped in, their intuition is telling them no, but yet they feel guilty or have shame about saying no to someone because they don't want to hurt their feelings, or they don't want to cause conflict. And so this is one of those things that as we go along, if you find that you're not trusting that intuition, it may be that somewhere in your past, you might perceive that you followed your intuition and you had more negatives than positive, more challenge and support, more negative and positive. And if that's the case, I would suggest take time and look at each of those events one more time from a balanced state and see, well, how did this choice I made actually serve me? What was the benefits? If I see more drawbacks, what was the benefits? If I see more benefits, what were the drawbacks? So you see that even though you thought you chose something that out of impulse, you actually still had lessons, and you still learned, and you still were making a choice out of your highest values, because we're always going to choose based on our highest values to take A or B. And so if you find yourself going through your events in your life, these significant ones, write them down, and then take a few minutes and ask yourself, do I feel that this event, this experience I had, has equal positive and negative, equal support and challenge, and make sure that is seen, and you can really tap into the both sides of the equation, so you can not have the idea that in the future you're going to somehow screw up or make the wrong decision, because you can't, because you can only make the choice that's going to give you a lesson. What I'm suggesting is, when you're tapped into your intuition and you're poised in the moment when you're making a choice, then you're more likely to choose something that's going to align with your highest values and that's going to give you the result that you're looking for. So practice this and let it become a part of how you operate, and it will become an automatic at some point. So here's how you do it. There's many techniques. One of the best ways to tap into the intuition when you're feeling stuck or you really need to make a choice is your breath. Everything kind of comes back to your breath again. So when you're in the state of impulse or instinct, your breath changes. You get more shallow breathing, more rapid breath, and that takes you out of your intuition. So one of the first things to do is get back into your breath. And I personally, there's many different techniques out there for breathing. I'm going to share with you a couple of the ones that I've used that I've shared with clients, and it seems to really help them in the moment. Very simple breaths. It's inhaling through your nose, say for the count of 4 or 5, holding for that same time, 4 or 5, and then exhaling 4 or 5, and then repeat that over and over 3 to 5 times. It seems to be the number that gets you back into center again, and you can think more clearly, gets you out of the impulse and instinct and back to thinking clearly. And then when you get into that state, that's when you start plugging in your quality questions. If you're sitting here with a choice to make and you are impulsive about it, again, you'll see more positive, negatives. So the quality question is, what are some drawbacks I'm not seeing about this decision? If you find yourself in the instinct, which is I'm seeing more negative than positive, ask your quality question. How is this also have positive equally to the negative? So you can, again, you're trying to see full data, full quantum of the experience, so you can actually make the choice that's not attached to an outcome, but attached to what feels right for you in the moment. Because that's the key, is tapping into what's right for you in the moment. Because you might have outside influences trying to direct you, but really the most important thing is what is going on inside of you, what feels right for you in that moment. And then when you tap into that intuition and you get the answer to the question, then you have the knowing. And when you have the knowing, there's no longer a question of what to do, you know it. And I know we've all been there to where you've had a choice to make or a decision to make, and you know what to do and you do it and you take action on it. And then you're stuck on the fence. Again, you're not in the moment of presence with the answer, tapping into your intuition, because when you do, you know the answer. And this takes practice of trusting that you are tapped in and make the choice. It's based on all the data. And then that's all you can do at that moment, and then commit to that decision. So use your breath when you're in the moment to tap in and get into that intuition and ask yourself those quality questions. Another breath technique that I find helpful is a deep inhale through the nose, long, and an exhale through the mouth. So it's in the nose, out the mouth. That's another technique that works. So you got the box breathing, which is equal, and you got the in the nose, out the mouth. Again, there's the Wim Hof breath. There's many techniques out there. Find the one that works for you, but make sure that you use the breath work in those moments where you're sitting in the space of really of the unknown, and you're trying to really capture all the data that you need to make the decision that you're going to make. So, questions about that? Beautiful. If you have questions, again, put them in the chat box and let's cover these. Learning to tap into your intuition is step one to be able to move forward. Step two is about listening to your inner voice. Okay. Now, I didn't say you're not listening to the outer people's voices, which we get sometimes, right? Sometimes, we got outside voices. Oops, let's go here. There we go. We got voices in our head that aren't your voice. They're other people's voices. Typically, when you're not tapped into your intuition and you're trying to make choices, you'll get voices in your head from authority figures, maybe parents or teachers or pastors or authority figures that we look up to. Will tend to want to inject their voices in ourselves and not use ours. The key here is to tap into your inner voice, which, guess what? It sounds like you when you're in the moment. And it's not someone else's voice. This is yours. Now, I'm not saying it's not good to capture data from other people's wisdom, because that's super wise to capture data from other people that you think might have some good information. But the ultimate decision is going to come from you listening to your inner voice. I like to call it you're following your nose. And I've been doing this most of my life. And I look back and I scan, and I seem to be someone that I like to try to follow my nose sometimes toward things. If I'm really centered and present, my inner voice says go right, and I go right. My inner voice says go left, I go left. And you start to trust that inner voice on a deeper level, so that when it speaks to you, then you can act immediately. And the inner voice will also, if you're tapped into inspiration, if you're tapped into intuition, your inner voice says things like love to, it says things like choose to and desire to. Those are the high vibration inspired thoughts that you have in your head. When it's another person's voice in your mind, when you're injecting, you're going to hear more things like, I should be doing this, I ought to be doing this, I've got to do this, or I need to do this. These are more desperation type languages that you will say when you're actually not quite tapped into your intuition. And so it's very important that when you're in the state of decision making, or you're in the transition, that you learn how to tap into your own inner voice. And one of the things your inner voice will say it will say, I would love to do this. And you will have a desire feeling to do something, as opposed to this feeling of desperation, got to, have tos. And in my practice, I've had a chiropractic clinic for 30 years. And the people that came into my office that had the most severe health issues, that had the most anxiety and the most depression, and healed the slowest, were living in the lower vibration energy of shoulds, got to, and have tos, and ought tos. They have to get up and go to work, or they really should go to church on Sunday, or they really ought to be going to school, or whatever it is. And when I heard that language in my practice, or when I hear it now with a client, that's an indicator to me that you're not quite tapped into your intuition, and you're not listening to your own inner voice, and you're probably projecting other people's values into you. And so as you navigate life, start being acutely aware of your inner voice, and what is it actually saying? What's the dialogue that you're having with yourself? Again, if it's in the should to, ought to, got to desperation, then again, you're probably not aligned truly with your intuition. You want to get into the high vibration energy of love to, because again, in my practice, the people that came in and they got up and they had a job that they loved doing, and their relationships were inspiring to them. Their financial status, they were loving where they were there, and their health and wellness were on an uptrend because they were feeling good about their life. Those are the ones that healed the fastest and had longevity over the ones that did not. And so, scan your life and your relationships. Are you living? Is your relationship area of life inspiring? Are you having ought tos and shoulds and got tos in the relationship area of life? Look at your career and ask yourself, is what I'm doing, is the service I'm providing, is this a love to, am I loving to do this? Or is this something I've got to do? And again, health and wellness, when you look in the mirror, are you loving what you look like? Are you saying, I really got to go work out? I should go work out and get exercise. I really should change my diet. And again, that's a real common one, when you say I should be changing my diet, because chances are, if you act on the shoulds, you're probably not going to sustain it very long, because it's not an inspired action. Inspired actions come with inspired feeling, and inspired feeling results in inspired destinies for you and your life. I would hope that on this program, one of the things that we want to accomplish through these 12 sessions is to help you get more clarity about what you want in each area of your life, in your relationship, your career, finance, and health, and to really get clear about what you want to get clear about who you are. And if you make a plan for your life that's based around your highest values, and it's based around you tapping into your intuition and you learning to listen to your inner voice and act on that, then the chances are you're going to have more fulfillment throughout your life. And that's one of the ultimate goals of this series and self-mastery, is learning how to really master tapping into your intuition, and really master learning how to listen to your inner voice in those moments where you really need some guidance. And just learn to trust yourself and follow your nose. If you've had experiences in the past where you perceived that maybe you made choices that caused you more pain than pleasure and gave you more challenge and support, then again, go back to each one of those moments and ask yourself the quality questions so you can see the full data of each experience, because you never experienced more pain than pleasure, more challenge and support, more negative than positive. And you also never experienced more support than challenge, more good over bad. It was always in full quantum, and it always was in full balance. You just might not have asked the quality questions in the moment. And even now, when you look back, if you feel emotional ties to certain events, chances are it's time to look back from a balanced state of your intuition and seeing the full data of what's been going on and what the experience is about. And that's when you can capture the nuggets of wisdom, I call them, that are a part of each experience that we've ever had in our life. We have these nuggets of wisdom that have been given to us through those, if you ask the quality questions and see what you've learned, because every experience that you've had has given you certain nuggets of wisdom that you need for this journey of life. Nothing's been wasted. There's been no experience that hasn't served, and there's no mistakes that you made in your past. You just may not have taken the time to go look back and see from an intuition's point of view the full quantum. You might have looked at it through an impulse. You might look at it through an instinct. And when you do that, you're going to see half the information, and you're not getting all the data you need to really, one, see that nothing was missing, that you made the choice in that moment that was aligned with you and your values, and nothing needs to be changed. And that you're in this present moment today with knowledge and wisdom from those experiences to help you get clear about who you are and what you want, so you can now plan your future. It's difficult to get a clear vision of your future and to take action steps towards something if you haven't cleared the past and see that things up to this point have been perfectly balanced. That's through your intuition. And if you can't see that, then you're going to have a clouded vision. You're going to have fears and anxiety of the future, because if you think you've messed things up in the past, it's going to tag that, and you're going to have a fear of the future of making choices, and that's going to possibly affect your self-worth, and it's going to, your confidence level is down, and making choices then you're hesitant on. And then when you're hesitant and you don't trust your own intuition, you start taking advice from outside figures that are trying to give you advice through their own values, which may not be aligned with yours. But if you don't trust yourself and trust your intuition and listen to your inner voice, then you might likely follow someone else's advice, which is based on their values. And so it's wise to really start practicing, get really strong at listening and tapping into the intuition, so that you don't depend on others so that you need to make choices, but you use others' data, use others' information to help give you more information to make choices on. So again, you're not trying to follow, you're the expert on you. I mean, you're the expert on what you want, and you're the only one that can really truly know what you want for your life. But to be able to tap into that, you got to get into your intuition and get out of your head and not have reaction emotional choices, but actually try to make your choices based on a true inspired decision, because you're tapped into your intuition by asking quality questions. And to get tapped into those quality questions, use your breath to get you back centered again. Your breath is the key here when it comes to this. Now, this isn't every single choice you ever make, because I'm sure there's a lot of choices that you can make real quick and you go and you don't even think about it. But there are times in life that I'm sure you've all experienced. I know I certainly have. You've experienced times where there's challenge. You've experienced times where there's transitions going on. You've experienced times where you might feel down, or you actually might be infatuated, but you might be riding the emotional waves of life. And when you're in those moments, moving forward, if you can learn to tap into that intuition through your breath and through quality questions, then your inner voice comes out, and it's your voice, and you can be confident and certain about that. And when your inner voice gives you a message, start following that. I started doing this way more in the last year or two, to where, especially when I've been traveling, is, I'm not quite sure where I'm going. I just thought, I'm going to go out and just follow my nose today. And I'm just going to listen to the inner voice. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to follow that. And what I notice is when I follow my inner voice, usually that gets me to some more inspired place that actually is aligned to my values. And I say, oh, I can see why I chose that. I did not quite know it then, but I just trusted that it was going to lead me to the right spot. And certainly it does. And again, I know that I'm sure you've all had times where your inner voice is saying, hey, don't do that. But something inside of us says, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm sure we've all done that, where we look back and go, shit, I wish I would have listened to my inner voice there, but I did not do it. The beauty in this is, whether you listen to your inner voice or whether you not, you're still going to attract support and challenge, pain and pleasure, negative and positive, back and forth. And so the question is, do you want to face the challenges of not following your inner voice or following your inner voice? In my experience, what I've noticed is when I follow my inner voice, I'm still going to attract challenges, but they're inspiring challenge that I'm inspired about overcoming because they're on the way to something, because I've chosen to go down this path and I committed to that. And when I made choices out of impulse or instinct, I still attracted supports and challenges and negatives and positives, just like I was. But now these are different, because now I'm going to be attracting circumstances that has to get me back to center again, because I got off center because I wasn't listening to the inner voice. So either way, you're going to have it. So you might as well start trusting and practicing listening to their voice and just going for it and see what happens. And I think that I know that my clients that have started learning how to do this, tapping into the breath, get into intuition, follow the inner voice, and just follow it and trust it. You start to build more confidence in yourself, and you start to have more self-worth. You start to trust yourself that no matter what, if I just tap into my intuition, if I listen to my inner voice, it's getting me moving forward toward my vision. And again, the more clear you are in your vision, the more tapped into your intuition, the more you can know what action steps to take. And that gets us to the third superpower that we're going to build on this, is how to focus your intention to attract what you want. Because it's one thing to tap in to your intuition. It's one thing to listen to your inner voice, but now it's another thing to really take action on there. And that's where you focus your intention. Now, all of us have a certain amount of, I like to call them, what I learned to call them over the years is attention units. Okay, we have attention units. We have a certain amount of attention units that we can place on areas of life. And again, if we remind ourselves, the areas of life are relationship areas, career, finance area, and our health. And so if you're wanting to have fulfillment in each area, then you've got to put intention on those areas. And it's not just about the intention, and now it's about putting your attention on it. So you take those attention units, which are yours, and you own all of them, and putting them toward the things that are most inspiring to you. Because whatever you put your intention on and whatever you put your attention on, you're going to attract into your life. And so you don't want to waste your attention units by placing them on things that are not as inspiring to you. So those attention units are precious, and we all have a finite amount of them. Because if you try to focus too much attention and you don't have it, then you're going to have chaos. You're going to attract confusion in areas of life as feedback that tries to get you back to center again. Again, remember that when you attract feedback from the relationship, career, finance, and health, it's just an indication that you may not be living according to your values. You may not be tapped into intuition, and use that as feedback to help get you back to center again. Because we need a little stress in our life. So we need to have some confusion and some chaos. So we need to have these times of in transition to help get us back to center and become strong again. So be wise with your attention units, and put them toward the things that you want to attract in your life. Sometimes people want to take attention units from you. Sometimes there's things that you see that you want to put your attention units on because you might have an impulse or instinct to run toward or run away from. And so you want to be careful with those, because again, what you focus your intention on, you will attract. And so when you have a clear vision and when you're tapped into intuition, now take your attention units and put them on the action steps to try to get toward what you're trying to attract in your life. And it's the action steps that really get things moving. Because again, you can tap into intuition, you can hear the inner voice, but if you just sit still and don't take action, then you may not be moving anywhere very quickly. So again, it's wise to check in with yourself on a regular basis. Do a personal check-in to yourself. And again, when you're doing a personal check-in, it's about tapping in back into your breath, whatever breath work for you. Inhale, exhale, hold, get quiet, and scan your body and scan where you're putting your attention. and ask yourself the quality questions again. So it's about tapping into, getting into your breath, asking quality questions. Is where I'm focusing my attention in my life giving me the results I'm looking for? Am I wisely distributing my attention units that I've got to the areas of my life that are most inspiring to me? Or am I actually spending time and energy on things that are not as inspiring for me? And so it's important to take these periodic checkups to capture all the data so you can know how to react with poise and not out of impulse or instinct. And again, when you can be centered and poised in the moment, when you're going through transitions or going through challenges, then you can actually tap back into who you are, what are your highest values, what are your drives, and then that gives you more ammunition to ask quality questions. Because if you know your values and if you know your mission, what beautiful questions you can ask. Does this decision I'm making, does this opportunity that I've been giving, which choice can I make that's gonna help meet my values and get me more of what I want in my life? And if you can get used to asking that quality question and being comfortable with saying yes when you mean yes and saying no when you mean no, then you can release shame and guilt either and not beating yourself up. Because when you say yes to something you really mean no to, you might make other people happy. They might be pleased with you, but what's going on inside is you're going to be beating yourself up and going to resent yourself for not choosing something that you're more inspired about. Now, when you do say yes to something you say no to, you've got a subconscious motive to get, you think that yes is going to get you your values met than saying no. So once again, you can't really screw things up. You're only going to get results. And so what I'm suggesting you do with these 3 superpowers is learn how to harness these 3 so that when you're in the moment of making a choice, you can actually have a high probability of choosing to do something that is more aligned with who you are and more inspiring to you, which is going to feel more fulfilling to you when you look back on your life. When you look back in your life, you want to look and see these moments that you've experienced that might have been challenging or might have in certain transitions, and look back and realize, wow, those experiences really gave me a lot of wisdom that I'm using today. And so you want to use all that data, if you can ask those quality questions for your decisions that you're making today, because everything you've experienced has been serving you. You've never been off purpose. No matter what choices you make, you're on. You're not off. You're always on purpose. It's just a matter of how do you want to choose to move forward with your life. You know, we all have a history, right? So the question is, how do you want to go from here? You want to go from where you are to where you'd love to be, then learn how to tap into that intuition so that when you're in the moment, you can then get clear and listen to that inner voice, because that inner voice comes out when you're tapped into intuition, and it's you. It sounds like you, and it's going to be that voice, and you can feel it. And it's a certainty that you have whenever you're tapped into your intuition and you hit that inner voice of yes to something, then you're locked into intuition. And so then once that's locked in, now you know where to put your attention. Now you know where to set your intention to be able to put your attention to move toward whatever you're trying to achieve with the action steps. And what will happen is over time, the self-doubt will go down and the self-worth will go up and your confidence level will go up and you start trusting yourself more. So that then what happens is when you do face challenges, you can quickly assess and quickly move forward. You can tell if you're being impulsive or if you're being instinctual, because you'll feel emotion and you'll feel one-sidedness. And when you feel that, that's the feedback that's trying to get you back poised and get centered again. So when you're feeling that emotional pull one way or the other, use that as an indicator to stop what you're doing, tap into your breath, get centered back to intuition, get poised, and listen to your inner voice. Because it's not the time to have brain noise and ask questions, because you've got the question. Now you need to just be silent and listen for the answer. because sometimes we get really busy trying to solve problems and try to fix the problem, like we're feeling stressed or feeling anxious or feeling off. We want to fix it, but the learning comes from sitting in it and taking and allowing yourself to sit in this confused state, allowing yourself to sit into this fear or anxiety or shame or guilt or whatever the emotion is. Allow yourself to sit in it, because there's so much to learn from that. And then when you're in it, then you ask the quality questions after you tap into breath, and just listen to your inner guide, because it knows what to do. It knows where to go and what choice to make. You just have to give yourself the opportunity and trust yourself enough to that you know the answers, and that as long as you can tap into intuition and you're clear about your values, you're clear about who you are, make the choice and commit and keep moving forward. It's one thing to make a choice without, and I'm sure we've all made a decision without a full commitment. And until you're fully committed, there's always the hesitancy in your mind. There's always that chance of drawing back from moving forward. And so when you have full quantum and you see full data through your intuition, and you can really listen to the inner voice coming strong toward you, and you follow that, what'll happen is you'll feel more grounded and certain. And when you're certain, then you have more of a presence about you. And when you have more of a presence about you, that's when you feel energized and your energy's up, and you know who you are, you know why you're here, and then you have a deeper level of self-mastery over your emotions and over your ability to come up against a problem and be able to handle it and make the choice on your own, and master the skill of being able to solve your own problems. And that is a part of self-mastery. So intuition, let's tap in. So let's repeat. Step one, focus on tapping into intuition by using your breath and asking quality questions. Number two, listen first and trust your inner voice when it says to do something or not to do something. And when you trust, now act by putting attention on whatever it is that your inner voice is saying to do. Focus your intention and then put attention on manifesting and creating what you want. And then practice this with, set small goals and then see how this works. And as you get more confident, you will be able to make decisions more readily without hesitation and feel more certain about it as you move along. So there's your homework, is to practice tapping in to intuition. Practice getting to know what that feels like for you, because it's not here in your head, it's here in your heart when you're tapped in. So practice using your breath when you're feeling anxious or stressed or confused or in transition, or you have to make a decision, you're on the fence about something, relationship, career, finance, health. Practice using your breath to get centered, ask the quality questions, and then listen for the guide that's inside that knows in that moment, this choice feels like the best choice for me. And then just go for that and just trust that that's the choice. And then whatever comes from that choice, trust that whatever outcome comes from this choice I'm making, I'm going to be able to look at that, and I'm going to be able to learn from that and grow from that, regardless of what supports and challenge come along from that decision, because you're trusting your inner voice, you're trusting that intuition. And then as you see that when you can focus your attention on an inspired message from your inner voice that comes from your intuition, now your actions are more inspired actions and your results are more fulfilling, because you're locked into you. You're leading, you're making choices based on who you are, not based on what other people think you should do, which is what happens sometimes, is we do what we think we should be doing to please others instead of what is right for us. And no one knows more about what you want and what's right for you than you. You're the expert on you, and you're the only one that really knows to a deep level what you want for your life and what your vision is for your life. And so I encourage you that as you learn and you're tapping in to start writing down inspired messages that come from tapping into intuition, and start writing down what messages your inner voice are telling you about your life, about who you are, about your relationships, about your career, about your finances, about your health and well-being. Write these messages down, because these are your messages from you. These are coming from your intuition and your inner voice that's trying to guide you toward fulfilling your highest values and living and fulfilling your mission. And which is why we're all here, is to learn how to learn who we are, why are we here, and how do we accomplish that? How do we have a fulfilling life that's based around that? And so these three superpowers truly can be these powerful tools in your toolbox to pull out when you're going through and you're navigating life's challenges. And again, it's not about never having challenges and never having stress or anxiety. It's about how do you flow through those nicely without the ups and downs and the swings, the roller coaster swings that I'm sure we've all experienced in life. It's more, we want to flow through life, not be erratic through life, ups and downs. That causes aging. The swings causes more aging on our life than the flow does. So learn to flow through life by tapping intuition, trusting inner voice, and learning how to put your attention units on what you want, and just watch and see what happens. So practice that this week. That's your homework, is practice in those moments and just see what happens. And if you haven't quite taken the time to get clear on your values, and you need more help with that, let's get that clear, because this is the foundation of the whole rest of the course. Is you want to really keep getting clear about your values, which will give us insights about your mission and insights about how to show up authentically. Bring in these three superpowers with you on a daily basis as you navigate your life to help guide you and to help you get what you want, because that's what they can do. A very powerful superpowers that we all have. Each one of us can tap into this if we just learn how to do it. And it's no better time like now. So the next couple of weeks, let's practice that. If you haven't seen the first video, Gia, can you put the link to the first video in this chat so that if people miss the first one, they can rewatch that? Or if you
Dave, I already put it. When I enter, I put the video.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, great. So I know we're almost, it's about time. So let's see if anyone has any questions in a moment. One of the things that I would like to offer you guys, however, is you're having struggles, you want some help, because sometimes we need help in life. And part of self-mastery is knowing when to ask. It's not trying to do everything yourself. Sometimes we need help. So if you want to have a call with me, I like to do these synergy calls with people that are having some struggles or feeling stuck and you need some help knowing what's the next steps to take. Let's get on a synergy call and let's help work you through this so you can keep moving. We all have important things to do. So, let's break through whatever barriers are keeping us back in this. And let's just go for it. So call me. Let's do that. So let's open up some questions, Gia, if there are any.
Yes, there are some questions from Jeffrey, John, and Christy by the moment. So we can go in order, and if they want to speak and ask their questions,
yeah, that's good,
and unmute themselves, we are open to.
Okay, let's do that.
All right. First, Jeffrey, would you like to unmute yourself, or if not, I can read your question.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you want me to read it?
Yeah.
I was finishing another question. Okay. Quite a simple one. You mentioned that advice hold on. advice or influence from others can be tainted by their experience, I often like to have someone listen to me and repeat back to me in their words what I'm telling them. Without shoulds, coulds, and oughts. I think that I want someone to confirm what I'm saying. What do you think about this kind of conversation matters?
I love these. I love these conversations. I think that the more data you can gather, not only from you but also outside people, I think it's better because again, everyone's got a different set of values and everyone sees the circumstances differently, and we filter every experience through our values. And so, as long as you can keep in mind that the person that's giving you any advice, they're filtering it through their values, which certainly is valid, but making sure that you always stay true to your values. And when you gather data from others, make sure it resonates with you, as opposed to doing it because of who they are. Like, my parent says I should do this, so I'm going to do this, or this authority figure says to do it. But I love the idea of having them read it back to you, because I know many times when I've done that with friends or colleagues that read back to me what I'm saying to you, it's funny how when they read it back to you, sometimes you go, wow, yeah, I already know the answer. You can really hear yourself talking when someone is presenting it back to you. So it's a really great exercise to do. And again, the key here is gathering the information from people that you trust to use to help you get more of a decision that's right for you as a person. So that's really the key. So thanks for that. That was a good question. And that's a great exercise to do. I'd certainly recommend gathering feedback from anywhere like that.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks,
I
Dave.
think Jeffrey has another question.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I can piggyback off of that, I guess. I just went. Okay, so somewhat related. On the flip side, Dave, as an advisor yourself, what things do you focus on to be a good friend, mentor, or advisor to someone who's trying to figure something out in their own life? And being conscious of the way you respond from your own experience that will naturally not be.
Yeah, great. I think one of the keys is to not filter out responses because you might think it may hurt their feelings or it's not what they want to hear. Because I think sometimes, we need people in our lives that aren't afraid to just speak the truth and tell us, hey, terrible idea, or here's why I think that, or here, people that can really be honest and open to you. I think is really important. So when I'm trying to help someone, I'm trying to look at who they are as a person and their values as well, and understand where they're coming from. So when I give someone my opinion about what they do, I want to relate it to who they are and their values. And I might even say, hey, in my value system, this is what would work for me in this situation. But in their value system, it could be totally different. So I think it's important to really take into account your own values when you're giving someone your opinion and the other person's values. So you can really give them advice based on who they are as a person and not try to inject your opinions and your values onto someone else. Because, you hear that sometimes when someone's giving you advice, and I try to catch myself, if you say, hey, you really should be doing this, or hey, you ought to do this or that. That kind of language is not the language I like to use when I'm trying to help people, because I don't want them to tell them what they should do. I want them to decide what to do on their own based on who they are. So I just would give them some data that they may not be recognizing, but not try to force them and tell them what they should do, because that's a disempowered state when you're doing the shoulds, got tos, and have tos. So open and honest, talk in their values, and give them a rounded opinion, yours, others, and so that way you have the full data so that someone can help. You can support them in making their choice.
Yeah, that makes sense, because your intuition is trying to find this data, And so if you can provide some of it, that's helpful.
Totally. Yeah, that's exactly right. And so when you're the person that someone's giving you that, again, try to filter that through your values and take what works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, then it can't come. So you cannot take advice that doesn't work for you and doesn't support your values. Otherwise, at some point, you're going to be resentful, or you're going to have more challenge. And so, great. That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. So thanks for that.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Well, we have another question from John. John, if you would like to ask the question out loud, you can unmute yourself.
Sure. The question kind of dovetails into a couple of other ideas, but how does one know this inner voice? The inner voice is not infallible. And I'm assuming it's through trial and error that you begin to learn to know, maybe there's an inner voice saying that I should do a certain thing, and then that ends up being not the thing that one should do. So how does one trust a fallible inner voice?
When you're, great question. So again, the first step is try to tap into intuition. So the inner voice that comes, we know is coming from a balanced state, not impulse or instinct, but balance. And then you choose to follow that message, right? So here's the key. You might perceive that you listen to your inner voice, and you might perceive that it gave you an outcome that you perceive as more negative than positive, more challenge and support. So you might think, wow, that was a wrong decision. That was a bad choice. I should not have done that. But the reality is, whatever choice you made by following your inner voice, you are going to have support and challenge, negative and positive. You are going to have a balance of negative and positive. And so if you look at the event and you're perceiving the imbalance, then you're not seeing the full quantum of the experience that have happened. Because and then that will cause you to not trust your inner voice. So that's why I was saying, anytime you have a perception that you in the past have made a choice and you feel that was a bad decision, I shouldn't have listened, my inner voice has said this, and now I've got more pain than pleasure from that, then that is incomplete data. Because when you see the complete data, you'll see that yes, I made this choice, and yes, it certainly gave me some challenges, but what did I actually learn from that? How did that actually serve me? What would be a drawback if I actually didn't experience that and learn this lesson? Because each experience has its own nuggets of wisdom from it. And if we don't see that, then we'll tag the experience as more negative than positive, and that we screwed up, or we made a decision and we shouldn't have done that. And so when you see full quantum of it, then you see that, okay, I'll follow my inner voice. I see how it served me. I see how it challenged me, and I learn from that. And I'm going to use that next time. I'm going to use that information next time when I follow. So it doesn't mean not follow it again. It means keep doing it, because when you tap into intuition and your inner voice comes out and you follow that, know and trust that that is the perfect direction that you needed to go. And if you run into challenges, man, those must have been the challenges that you needed to experience to learn and grow, because you're going to need that information to go on to the next phase somehow. We don't have experiences in life without learning something that we're going to need in the future. There's no wasted energy on that. So did that answer your question?
In that case, if the only way that we can conclude that the inner voice was right is in the aftermath of experiences and our ability to see, it seems very jumbled. It seems very subjective and almost fickle, capricious, which you can't definitively say that what I heard, and then to know that tuition, how do I know when tuition and the voice, this interaction, how do I govern that? And how am I able to distinguish that? So you're saying, and it seems like only the aftermath of an experience would then validate that what we heard was more to intuition than inner voice. It seems very subjective and very hard to distinguish anything.
So when you're truly in the intuition, you see the fullness of the situation. You don't see more positive or negative. You don't see more negative, positive. You see that there's a balance of both sides. So when you make the choice when you have a message, let's call it, from your inner voice that says, do this, go this direction, or make this choice, then the key is knowing that no matter what choice I make, I'm going to benefit, and there's going to be drawbacks. There's going to be supports and challenges, no matter what choice I make, because you can't screw that up. And so it's key to be able to trust that no matter what choice you make, you're going to move in a direction, you're going to learn a lesson, and you might look back on that experience. And if you look back on that experience and still think, wow, that was not a good choice, I shouldn't have done that, then you're not seeing you're not seeing the other side of it, because there's always going to be full quantum. And so training yourself to be able to see both sides, and as you get more confident and certain in your inner voice, you have a knowing. And as you learn how to master seeing both sides, no matter what choice you make, now you can have certainty that if you just follow your inner voice, it's going to lead you down the path, and you're going to learn lessons, and you're going to have supports and challenges, positive and negatives, ups and downs, ebbs and flows, no matter what you choose. And so, again, if you look back and don't see that, then you're only seeing one side. And so that's where the quality questions come in, to be able to ask yourself, if I'm seeing this has been more of a negative than a positive, then I need to look and see where the upsides are. If I'm seeing this is all more support than challenge, I'm not seeing the other side. So you can't screw that up. You're only going to get outcomes, and then you go from there. But if you learn to follow the inner voice and trust it, you'll have less of those moments where you look back and have that moment of feeling that, okay, that was a challenging, I shouldn't have made that decision. And as you learn to do that, you'll see both sides all the time. So I hope that helps some too.
Hey, Dr. Dave, can I jump in here and kind of make this a discussion and answer John's question in my words?
Yeah, it's good.
From how I understand. Hey, John, I'm just some random Joe Schmo. I wasn't solicited for this.
No worry. Please.
I think a way to answer your question is that your inner voice is talking about, apparently it's talking about, it's helping you align with your own values.
Uh-huh.
And so the way I see it, in responding to your question about how can I trust my inner voice? How do I know that it's infallible? How do I know that it's like, yeah, I can trust it and it'll lead me in the right direction if I can be aware of it some more. And I think your inner voice isn't aligning you, the way I understand it, to someone else's standards and someone else's highest values, what you value, the things that it's aligning yourself. And so your inner voice can't lead you wrong if you're aware of it and if you can hear it well, because it's aligning you to yourself better.
Yep.
And because it's the path that you want to take, whether you know it or not. And Dave, you can jump in here if I'm going down the wrong path.
This is theory. This is a lot of theoretical, hypothetical dialogue. I'm giving you an example. There's a gentleman I know, not me, a guy I know, who felt his inner voice was telling him to tell a girl that she was supposed to be his wife. And he acted on that inner voice.
Okay.
And then he decided to have a conversation with this particular woman. And she responded, well, my inner voice did not say that you were supposed to be my husband.
Yep.
And then it almost became an issue, not really stalking, but borderline, where he was acting on what he believed to be in alignment with the thing that he wanted. It just wasn't so, and he ended up marrying someone else and now has children with the other person. So again, distinguishing this voice, it's not infallible. So give me, you see what I'm saying? As long as it remains in the realm of theory, it's unproven. But to put it to work, put it on the court, so to speak, how would this gentleman, if he came to you after the example I just gave you, a friend of mine, what would you say to him?
If he was looking at that experience and thinking that that decision he made had more negatives than positives, or gave him more challenge and support and was somehow screwed up, then I would ask him questions to show him the other side of it. How did it actually serve your values in that moment to tell her what you wanted to tell her? Because he chose to tell her something based on his inner voice, which is aligned to his values. He may have not got the response that she wanted in return. And so then my questions to him would be, how did that serve you in that moment? How does it serve you now? What would have been the drawback if you would have got the response that you wanted? How would that actually been a disservice to you? And I would ask him those quality questions. So then he would see that decision to speak his truth and follow his inner voice was actually perfectly aligned with his values at that time. And then there's nothing to look back at and think was screwed up, because it was a perfect situation. It had both sides to it. And when you only see one side, then you'll label it as negative or positive. And when you label an experience in the past as more negative than positive, you carry that with you in the future as baggage, and that affects your decision making on forward. But when you can see balance of both sides of every event, now it takes away this anxiety and fear about, in the future, I'm going to make a decision that's going to cause me more pain than pleasure, because it's not possible. So the key is listening to the inner voice and obeying and act. And then whatever results come from that, find the balance of both, so you see that it served you no matter what you chose. If you do that, then you clear the emotion around that event. If you don't do that, then you're gonna for the rest of your life think that you made a wrong choice and it was more bad than good. I hope that made sense. So, what other questions?
Yes, we have another question from Christy.
Oh, good.
Well, I'm seeing that Christy isn't here, so I'm gonna read it.
Okay.
Okay. She said, can you reiterate the last 3 guidance recommendations?
I said, what was that again, Gia?
She asked, can you reiterate, can you repeat the last 3 guidance recommendations?
Repeat the last 3 guidance recommendations.
Yes.
Okay. I'm thinking she must be saying the 3 guidance, the 3 superpowers of tapping intuition, listening to their voice, and focusing on your intention. And again, the key here is learning to master your breath in the moment. Your breath is the key to bring you back to the center again. And when you can really learn how to tap into your breath in these moments of stress or anxiety or transition, where you really need to get clear, your breath is the thing that brings it all together. And if you don't stop to take that breath and get cleared, then you're going to be thinking out of emotion and lopsidedness. Again, instinct and impulse decisions will always lead to, at some point, attracting the other side, because everything always has both sides. So if you're choosing to do an impulse decision, at some point, you're going to find the other side of that. So an impulse decision is infatuation. Sooner or later, you're going to see the resentment. An instinct is based on more resentment, and sooner or later, you have a chance to see the upside of that. So it takes practice and quality questions to really get clear about these events in our life, like the example earlier. You know, unless you ask the questions and see that the decisions you made had both sides to it, then you're going to think that you somehow screwed up and your intuition or your inner voice was wrong, which is not possible. You're going to attract both sides. So you might as well practice tapping intuition, listen to inner voice, make a decision and move and go for it. Because that's going to give you the highest probability of having fulfillment. Again, fulfillment doesn't mean you'll have support and no support and challenge. Fulfillment means you got both sides, but now you're actually making this choice that's based on your values and who you are. And so yeah, go ahead. Someone has a question. Hey, John, did you have a question again?
I did. Okay, so
Yes.
if you can't be wrong, and so why does any of it matter? If you can't be wrong, because as long as you're being true to what you want, assuming that you have clarity with what you want,
Yes.
then, and you can't be wrong, then why does any of this matter?
Well, you're wrong and right. It's not that you're not wrong. It's just that you're wrong, and every decision has a wrong and right to it. And so, and it's based on who's looking at it, because we filter our life through our values. So when someone looks at a decision you made and it doesn't meet their values, they're going to call it wrong. If someone looks at a decision you made and it supports their values, they're going to call it right. And so the key is what works for you is the most important thing. What feels right for you in the moment to make this choice based on your values, based on you tapping into intuition, based on you listening to your voice, whatever comes, you choose that choice, knowing that some people are going to support it and some are not. Some are going to like it, some are going to like it. It's going to cause positive, it's going to have positive and negative. It's going to have both sides. So, and it's going to be right and it's going to be wrong. And so you're right in the fact that the key here is trusting what's right for you and making those choices and just going for that. So choose and just let go of it, and say, and just let go and just watch the outcomes and know that whatever outcome happens from whatever choice you make is going to have both sides to it. And if you can learn how to see that as you move along, then it takes away the anxiety and fear about making choices in the future. Because that's one of the things that really keeps us stuck in where we are in revolution, is we might have future fear and anxiety of making the wrong choice because we feel we have a perception that we somehow did that in the past. So we're afraid to do that in the future. So when you go back in the past and see that, wow, that actually the decision served me, it actually had both sides to it. And if I didn't choose to do that, what would have been the drawback to my life if I actually chose something different? When you can answer those questions, you see that, wow, everything was actually perfect. There was nothing to change about that. It actually served me exactly what I needed to in that moment. And I learned lessons from there. And now I'm in the present with that. Not regretting, not having past shame or guilt from choices or future fear about what's going to happen, but just poised that as long as you do your best to tap into intuition, listen to your voice, and go from there, you're going to have a higher probability of fulfillment and fulfilling your values, which gives you fulfillment in life. When the more values you get met in your life, the more fulfillment you feel.
Okay, so I was going to tease this out. My friend, again, not me,
Okay.
the friend.
Okay.
Okay, a friend of mine, supposing this, let's tease this example out.
Okay.
The lady that he told was supposed to be his wife ends up filing a police report that requires him to have a restraining order which requires him to leave the church that they were attending together because of the situation. He now gets a blemish on his record, preventing him from getting the job that he wanted to do. Now he's working at a job, a menial role in his estimation, beneath what his qualifications are, all because he answered what he believed to be his inner voice that led him to talk to a girl that she did not respond properly. So what you're saying is, if we tease this out, if he can somehow see, as you said, quantum, full quantum, and say, well, heck, if I hadn't answered that voice and said that, made that comment, which resulted in getting a restraining order, which blemished my record, which prevented me from getting the job, which ultimately landed me a job in a menial role far beneath my qualifications. However, this particular job that I ended up getting, I find peace here. And it's less stressful. So are you saying that in that moment, that's the full quantum? He can somehow find some sort of peace or resolution in the job that he, now mind you that his inner voice also told him to pursue the initial job that he can now no longer get, because he answered the inner voice to speak to a girl. And because it seems so subjective and so indistinguishable to know any of this.
Until you look and ask, you're right. Until you look and ask the right questions, it could look in a perception that it's screwed up. My intuition is saying, I would imagine if I could really talk to this guy, I would guess that the choice that he made about the girl was probably more of an impulsive choice as opposed to more of an intuitive choice. I don't know, but I'm just saying there's probably more factors that are going on. And you're correct when you said earlier, what does he do with his situation he's in now? And he's got, and the only choice he's got is to find the blessings in where he is in the moment. Because what happens is, when you feel that you've made a mistake and you feel that you're in a situation that is worse off than it would have been if you'd have chose something different, then you're going to naturally beat yourself up. You're going to naturally have lower self-worth, thinking you screwed up, which actually will block him from actually growing and learning and moving into something else that could be waiting for him. And so, yes, it is about him looking at his current situation and seeing the blessings and the perfection of where he is. And you said a couple of these actually about he's getting a more peaceful job. He's he's more fulfilled possibly in that. And I would be expanding more into that to see how is that actually serving his life right now. And probably the most important question for him is, what would have been the drawback if she would have actually responded how he hoped? And that one is a really great quality question to ask someone who is perceiving that it would have been different if she would have said this. It would have sure been better for me if she would have said this. But when you can really look at the truth around it, what would have been the drawback if that fantasy that you had would have happened? If she would have actually said these things that you hoped she would have said, how would that have been a disservice to you? And you would have been down the whole nother path as opposed to the path he's gone on. And so there's a few of those pieces of the puzzle to knock out in his perception that will really get him to really love the choice he made, to love the experience, and to see that he is in the perfect spot. And then he can go from anywhere from that point. But if you have a perception that you're screwed up somehow, then you're stuck where you are. But if you actually see that it was on that where you are and what you've experienced has been on the way, now you can capitalize on where he is, and then the sky's the limit from that point. But if he doesn't get to that point, then he's going to block his growth by thinking that he somehow is screwed up. It's just a matter of shifting his perceptions about his life by asking him questions to see the truth about really what went on.
I see. Thank you. I've got to run. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Gilliff, for inviting me.
Have him get on a synergy call. I'll talk to him and help him out with that.
Actually, he has actually gone off to marry this other woman.
All right.
And she's very well. She's a neurosurgeon, does phenomenally well. He's a stay-at-home dad now, raising the boy, and is living what he feels to be his best life now, having her support him.
Well, thank God that the first girl reacted the way she did.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah, thank God. And that's where he needs to get to, where he's thankful for exactly what happened, because look at his life now. And if it happened any differently, he wouldn't be sitting where he is today, sounding like he's got a pretty cool life. So that's just shifting his perceptions.
I see. Well, hey, thank you so much for your time. This has been a wonderful. I appreciate it. I've got to run. I got another meeting here coming up soon. Guys,
great
thank
question.
you so much. Wonderful time. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you. What other questions, Gia? Anybody have any more?
We have one more question from
Okay, cool.
Isabella Paulini. Isabella, if you want to unmute yourself, or don't unmute if you want me to read your question.
Yes, hello, thank you. I arrived a bit late to the meeting, but I don't know if Dr. Dave mentioned some, like a template or some examples of how to frame the quality questions.
Yeah, great. Quality questions are going to come out of you tapping intuition, and then asking your quality question of, am I in a instinctive phase decision making, or is this an impulsive decision that I'm trying to make? And you're really trying to see if you see both sides of things, because if you are trying to be impulsive and make a decision, then you're seeing more positive and negatives. So your quality question is, what are some drawbacks that I'm not seeing about this opportunity that I need to see? And if you're instinctually running from something or resenting from something, then the quality question is, what are some upsides to this experience or this opportunity that I'm not seeing, that I can see, so I can see both sides? So you can see that no matter what choice you make, you're going to have a balance of both sides. And when you have a balance of both sides and you see the full quantum, now your intuition and your inner voice can make a choice, not based on emotion, but based on what feels right for you in the moment. Not because you're trying to run from something or run towards something, but because you just want to stay centered and make a choice that's going to be aligned with your values. Because when you're being impulsive or instinctual, you're not being present. You're only seeing one side. And so you're likely to choose something that may not be aligned to your values at the moment in your perception. But again, you can't really screw up. You're only going to learn lessons. And you're only going to learn how to get back and then trust your intuition even more. So it's those kind of quality questions to ask yourself, to seeing both sides of the decision. And so tap into, in the moment, how do you feel when you're in the moment? Do you feel more positives about the choice, or is it more negatives? And then ask the opposite so you can see the balance. And it's that balance. When you get to that balance state, now you're going to choose from intuition and not choose from emotion. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, thank you. No, it does perfectly. I guess the only other clarification is that the impulsive one, I can define that as seeing everything, the side of being too good and not seeing the possible negative side of it. And the instinct is when I see it like bad, and I don't see the possibility of the goodness in it. Those are the definition, right? Instinct, you see it more black, and the other more, more on the
yes.
other.
Okay. Those are examples of quality questions you ask. I mean, there's an endless number of quality questions. And as you become better at tapping in, those quality questions can be something you can really learn how to ask yourself. And so these are just some really simple ones to start with when you're trying to make decisions, is see both sides of the equation. And again, if you're looking at if you're in the present moment, looking past, and I always, last time we were on the call, I had people, one of the exercises to do is go through your life and scan to see if you have any experiences or any kind of experiences that you've had that you might label as more negative than positive, those are the ones to go through and just ask the quality questions. How did this serve me? And what would be the drawback if I hadn't experienced this? What did I learn from this? And what would have been the drawback if I didn't learn the lesson from this experience? And what that does for you is it allows you to release emotions from the past, guilt, shame, regret, and that gets you back in the present, which helps take away anxiety and fear of the future.
Wow, thank you so much. Really
welcome.
appreciate your answer.
Hey, that was a great question. Thank you for asking it.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Dave, I don't see more questions.
Okay, so thank you all. Those are great questions. Again, if you really want to do some deeper work, book a synergy call. We'll sit on the phone for 20, 30 minutes and we'll just talk through what's going on and help guide you and see what needs to be done. You can use me as a resource. That's why I like to do the calls, so there'd be help. And it may be that you need some coaching, maybe not, but it's wise to, when you're really trying to get somewhere in life and you have a vision and you really want to be somewhere and go somewhere, sometimes we need some help getting through certain stages of life. And then you learn the lesson, then you keep moving. So I'm not sure. I don't think that anyone's ever accomplished great things without having some help along the way. So we all need it. And for those of you who are really adventurous, I have a Texas experience. I have a retreat center up here in North Texas that I do a mind body wellness retreat where you come and do coaching. You do, you have great food. You got your own place. You've got a sauna, you got food, hot tub, nature trails, yoga classes, massage, all this included. So it's something that we do here in North Texas. If anyone is super adventurous and wants to really have a deep dive on a weekend, it's a great experience. So thank you. And look, here's the next classes are coming up. 2 weeks. You can't mess things up. And here's why. That'll be a really great one. We actually touched on that a little bit tonight. So come and listen to that one. That'll give you some really great tools to do what we just talked about, which is how to look and see that see the balance of events and circumstances. And then the next one is the illusion of loss and gain, which is around grief and the illusion that you lost something or you gained something. So that'll be a real fun one as well. So keep share this with your friends and practice, do your homework. So anyway, thank you guys.
Thanks so much for your time, Dave.
Good job. Good questions. And thanks for being a great audience. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, Dave, for sharing your wisdom, light in the unique way you did.
Thank you, Gia, for your help. You're awesome. See you guys later. All right. Bye-bye.